There is a truth very few people are willing to hear. Even though you open your step-counting app every day to reassure yourself, in the first minutes of walking, your body is not burning visceral fat at all. Not the fat around your liver, not the fat wrapping your intestines, not the most dangerous fat that is quietly damaging your metabolism. And it's not because you're lazy. It's not because you're not walking fast enough. It's because your body doesn't trust you yet. Pause for a moment and look at this through the language of biology. Visceral fat is not excess fat the way we usually think about it. To your body, it is a strategic energy reserve, something that once determined survival over tens of thousands of years of evolution. So, when you first stand up and start walking, your body does not rush to burn it. It observes. It evaluates. It asks very primal questions. Is food available? Is there danger? Is this serious movement? Or just a few minutes done out of obligation? In the first 10 minutes, energy comes from glucose in the blood and glycogen stored in the liver and muscles. Insulin is still active. Biologically, the system is in a state of safety, and in that state, visceral fat is strictly protected. As you keep walking, as your steps become more rhythmic and time stretches on, the body begins to shift its perspective. Around 15 minutes in, insulin slowly declines, while adrenaline and noradrenaline rise gently, not as alarm signals, but as regulators. At this point, the body opens more accessible stores, first subcutaneous fat. Many people feel clearer, breathe more deeply, move more smoothly, and assume belly fat is burning. It isn't. Not yet. This is only a transition phase, a quiet signal to the metabolic system that this movement might last. Only when you walk long enough, usually after about 30 minutes of continuous, steady, unhurried walking, does the body truly change its decision. Insulin drops noticeably. The liver reduces glucose output. Fat becomes the primary fuel source. And only then does visceral fat become accessible for the first time. Not explosively, not dramatically, but slowly, carefully. Like a heavy door being opened because there is no longer a reason to keep it shut. Biology recognizes that there is no threat, no panic, only a mild, sustained energy demand. This is when it becomes safe to let go. The irony is that many people sabotage this exact moment, just as it begins. They speed up, they push harder, they try to burn more, and immediately cortisol rises, blood sugar increases, insulin returns. To the body, this signals danger. And when danger appears, visceral fat is locked away again. That is why a calm 45-minute walk can be metabolically more effective than a stressful 15-minute run, even though this contradicts what much of the fitness industry promotes. What visceral fat responds to is not effort, but biological reassurance. Walking far from meals, walking without pressure, walking long enough for hormones to shift. And repeating this consistently so the body relearns something very ancient. It no longer needs to hold onto this armor. If you've ever wondered why you walk so much yet your belly doesn't change, the problem may not be the number of steps, but the fact that you keep stopping right before your body is ready to let go. If you're still listening, take a moment to look honestly at your own habits. How long do you usually walk? Do you stop because you're tired, bored, or because you think, this is probably enough? Leave a comment sharing when you usually end your walk and how you feel around the 30-minute mark. Not to compare, but to better understand what your body is trying to tell you. This video isn't meant to pressure you into changing today. It's meant to help you stop fighting your biology and start working with it instead. There is something very few videos say out loud because it makes people uncomfortable. Your body does not care how hard you try. It only responds to signals. And in modern life, most of us are sending signals that are completely opposite to what we want. You can walk every day. You can hit 10,000 steps. You can be extremely disciplined. But if that walk happens in a rush state, worrying about work, checking your phone, thinking about the next meal, then, biologically, your body is not relaxed at all. Your nervous system stays tense. Cortisol remains high. Insulin never truly drops. And in that context, visceral fat has no reason to leave. This is where many people blame themselves unfairly. They think they lack willpower. They think they are not committed enough. But the truth is that they are living in a constantly overstimulated biological rhythm. The body cannot distinguish between stress from deadlines, messages, financial worries, or stress from running away from danger. To biology, stress means only one thing: not safe. And when it is not safe, every deep energy reserve is held tightly. In nature, humans walked for hours only under very specific conditions. The stomach was lightly empty. There was no immediate threat. Movement was steady, repetitive, unhurried. In that context, the body learned that it could use visceral fat without starving, without being attacked. Modern walking only works when it recreates that biological scenario, not when it becomes a task to complete. Many people stop right when the body is beginning to shift. Around minute 25, 28, 30, they feel nothing special and think, it's probably the same anyway. But inside, hormones are changing shifts. Insulin is stepping back. Mitochondria are learning to use fat more efficiently. And with just 10 or 15 more minutes, the biological signal would be clear enough for the body to release its deepest fat stores. This is the most commonly missed moment. The paradox is that you do not need to walk faster to reach it. You need to walk slow enough not to trigger alarm. Breathing still allows conversation. Heart rate is steady. No pain, no forcing. This is not training in the traditional sense. It is a quiet negotiation with biology. And biology only agrees when it is not pressured. If you are watching this and feel like you are doing everything right but seeing no results, try asking a different question. Is my body being reassured? Not only during walking, but in sleep, in eating rhythms, in how you end your day. Visceral fat does not disappear in a state of battle. It retreats in a state of prolonged stability. Try sharing in the comments. What time of day do you usually walk? And why do you stop? Because you are tired, bored, or because you think it is enough? These small details reveal a great deal about the biological signals you send every day. And sometimes, simply understanding one mechanism correctly is enough to stop blaming yourself and start giving your body the only thing it needs to change: time in safety. There is a deeper layer that very few people notice, and it is directly connected to the feeling of being stuck that so many people experience. Not stuck because of weight, but stuck because they feel they have tried for too long and their body still refuses to cooperate. Biologically, this usually happens when the body has adapted to living in a state of prolonged endurance. It no longer responds to short-term effort. It only listens to stable, repeated, non-threatening signals. Modern life creates a powerful paradox. We move in fragmented moments, rushing to the car, climbing stairs under pressure, training quickly to stay on schedule. To the brain, all of these are movements under compulsion. The body learns that movement equals pressure. And when movement is associated with pressure, the metabolic system resists opening deep energy reserves, not out of laziness, but out of defense. Another factor that is almost entirely overlooked is time of day. The same 35-minute walk sends a completely different biological signal when it happens after a day of constant snacking compared to a walk taken after insulin has had time to settle. Extreme fasting is not required, just a long enough gap for hormones to quiet down. In that state, each step carries a different meaning. It is no longer burning calories, but a message to the body that energy is not abundant, yet not dangerously scarce either. Many people are afraid of slowness, afraid they are doing too little, afraid it is not intense enough. But biology does not reward aggression. It rewards unremarkable consistency. Someone who walks for 40 minutes, 5 days a week, in a relaxed state often creates deeper metabolic change than someone who trains very hard but inconsistently and under stress. This may not sound exciting, but it is how hormones actually work. There is a very ordinary sign that you are moving in the right direction, and it has nothing to do with weight or measurements. It is a change in appetite. When visceral fat begins to be used consistently, the brain stops sending urgent signals to find quick energy. Mindless snacking decreases. The natural space between meals expands, not through restraint, but because true biological demand has softened. This is one of the earliest signals, yet it is often ignored. If you're listening and thinking, I don't have time for long walks, remember that the body does not require perfection. It requires a clear enough pattern to learn from. It may not happen every day. It may not always be 30 minutes. But when you allow the body to repeatedly experience that, movement does not equal stress, visceral fat slowly loses its reason to exist. Try observing one very small thing in the coming week. After a long, slow walk, what happens to your evening? Is sleep deeper? Is breathing slower? Is restlessness reduced? These changes are quiet, but they form the biological foundation for everything that follows. And when the foundation shifts, the body handles the rest at its own pace without needing to be pushed. Before this video comes to an end, there is one very important thing I want you to keep, not as advice, and certainly not as a promise to change your life. Hold on to it as a correct way of understanding your body, because it is very possible that for a long time you have treated your body as something that needs to be fixed, when in reality, it has only been trying to protect you in the only way biology knows how. Visceral fat does not appear because you are weak. It does not exist because you are lazy. It is not there to punish you. It is the trace of a body that has lived for too long in a state of vigilance. Vigilant against scarcity. Vigilant against stress. Vigilant against the repeated signals each day that say, things are not safe yet. In that context, the body holding on to a deep, hard-to-access energy reserve is not a mistake. It is a very intelligent survival decision. The problem begins when we try to force the body to give up that protection, using the very thing that caused it to form. Pressure. We push. We increase intensity. We set goals. We turn movement into a test of discipline. And when the body does not respond as expected, we turn against ourselves. But biology does not understand goals. It only understands signals. And if the dominant signal is still stress, then every effort is misinterpreted. Walking, when properly understood, is not a weak form of exercise. It is the oldest language the human body ever learned for using visceral fat. Not walking to prove something, not walking to punish yourself, but walking long enough, steadily enough, calmly enough for the body to understand that energy is being used without danger. And only under those conditions does the body dare to revise an old survival decision, the decision to hold onto visceral fat. You may not see change immediately in the mirror. The scale may not move for a while, but internally, the most important changes often happen in silence. The liver carries less burden. Insulin fluctuates less. The brain reduces its urgency for quick energy. The nervous system relearns what safety feels like during movement. These are changes no app can measure, yet they determine whether visceral fat continues to exist or not. If you have ever stopped at minute 25 thinking, it's probably the same anyway. Remember that many biological transitions happen just beyond that threshold, not because the body wants to test you, but because hormones need time. And that time cannot be shortened by willpower. It can only be respected. This video is not telling you to walk an hour every day. It is not saying that walking is the only solution. What matters more is the message behind it. You cannot force a system that is in defense mode to let go by adding more pressure. Whether it is visceral fat, disordered eating, or chronic exhaustion, the body only changes when it has been reassured long enough to believe that it no longer needs to defend itself If you are in a phase of feeling stuck, try changing the question. Do not ask, "How can I push harder?" Ask, "How can I help my body feel less on guard?" Sometimes the answer is not adding another workout, but removing a source of stress. Not tightening further, but allowing yourself to slow down in the right places. I want you to understand this. The process does not require perfection. The body does not need you to do everything right. It only needs a consistent signal that you are no longer in survival mode. And when that signal becomes clear and repeated, visceral fat loses its reason to exist. Not because you defeated it, but because you no longer need it. If this video helped you see your body differently, share your thoughts in the comments. No achievements required, no results to show off, just a real experience. How long do you usually walk? Why do you stop? And what in this video made you rethink things? Those stories do not just help others, they help you better understand your own relationship with your body. Finally, remember one simple but deeply true thing. Visceral fat does not disappear through force, but through trust. When the body trusts that you are living in a safer rhythm, it will take care of the rest. And perhaps this is not just a story about fat, but about learning to live slowly enough for your biology to finally catch its breath.